As he saw Principal transform into this form, he got an idea that every who dares to get hit by heavy cannon will an instant death. Principal Sun Da-Zing introduced himself as he joined the army at 17 years old and became a soldier at 40 years old. Along with this manages to kill thousands of zombies and monsters. He tries to motivate Chu that in every scar at his body is a sign of qualification to either go and die because everyone will eventually contribute everything to Dragon City. Chu Qing realized that Principal Sun said to him, so he started to doubt to fight with Principal Sun. He commanded the every students to stay and trust everything to the superhuman being that they will protect the city. After that they going to fight for the qualification to die reluctantly. Principal Sun and Teacher Yan starts to move to kill the monsters that scatter around the cultivation to buy some time for the students. Meng Kao remembered something from his past. From his previous life, Principal War Hero Sun Da-Zing died from a sneak attack by cracked space demon eyes and dragged to the sky and ending up badly injured. Meng Kao immediately called for Principal Sun to tell something about some information about this. This made Principal Sun took his attention. So Principal Sun Da-Zing asked him of what he wants. Meng Kao gives him information that he took from browsing in a forum that someone had saw someone bragging that he had discovered the cracked space demon eye evolution. Because of this evolution, it can use its tentacles to wrap a person and bring into the sky. So, he advises Principal to be careful of attacks that coming from above. Principal Sun Da-Zing replied that he's going to take it on his note, and he ordered to Meng Kao to take everyone to their safety. Both Teacher Yan and Principal Sun Da-Zing continued to move forward to help the others. Because of what Meng Kao did, he received another 199 contribution points after hero citizen Sun Da-Zing took heed of his advice, and survival chances had increased. He noticed specification of an hero which is in higher rank than elite citizens. This made him curious after Principal Sun Da-Zing's identity to be able to obtain the qualification to be called as hero. Shu approaches Meng Kao if what they need to do at this moment after Teacher Yan and Principal Sun starts to leave them. He responded that they are going back to the training room and obtain the qualification to die. Shu and some of his classmates made a confusion at their face for what does Meng Kao really going to do. But they trust Meng Kao, so they come along with him in order to be stronger than before. Inside the training room, Meng Kao and his classmates are fighting to each other to train them up while the other superhuman being are buying time for them to fight the monster outside the cultivation. Meng Kao finishes everyone to spar with, but he still calls everyone to try again to improve themselves to strengthen at this moment. But most of his classmates are so beat down that making them wanting to take a break. Because of this, he teases Chu Qing for being scared of a little pain. But as usual, Chu told him that he's just tired and wanting some rest, meanwhile thinking of a way to defeat Meng Kao. That made Meng Kao decided to let him for a while, and he got happy that Chu got so motivated after this. While both of them watching the other student to train themselves, Chu told to Meng Kao that he's worried about his family. But Meng Kao replied him that he's not the only one feel this, also the others. They are only just a normal high schooler, so even if they go, they have no idea what they could change, even sacrificing themselves. Meaningly, the only way they can do currently is to work hard and become stronger to surpass this such things. On the other side, at the Tianfu city where Meng Kao lives, the Red Dragon Army are trying to protect them from the scattered monsters, and because of this they need more manpower, so they call everyone to cooperate with Red Dragon Army. Just as sudden a minotaur attacks them that they ended up dead and some of the crab machine got destroyed. Meanwhile, Meng Kao's father was on the radio hearing these things and sudden cut the line on the other side. His father advises Xiao Kao to follow them and never get to separate from them while evacuating to the Fuzai Road shelter. Xiao Kao's grandmother took the responsibility for her to take care while Yishan could focus to his wife to take care of. Everyone starts to evacuate to the Fuzai shelter to avoid getting harmed from the battlefield. Unexpectedly, a purple light glows up at the alley that they crossing that leads to Fuzai Road shelter. It turns out that this light was a portal of the beast monsters, and a rhino-like creature appeared from this. Time to time they spawned, and some civilians was unfortunately chased by these monsters. Yishan calls everyone from his family to come closer at him to avoid getting separated by the crowd. Her grandmother was so confident that she's going to protect Xiao Kao, so he mustn't worry about them. All of a sudden, these monsters appeared in front of them that make them startled as they saw the monster not alone. Both of them was so shocked that made them startled. Luckily, Xiao Kao saw a sword that pierced from one of the monster that Red Dragon Army fought before. She didn't hesitate to lunges at the top of the monster to save her parents, and he charges her sword. Xiao Kao stabs the monster's head to hit its brain, since it was most vulnerable part of this monster. After piercing on the other one, he jumps on the other one to attack it before it reaches her parents. She used the momentum of these monster and slashes to the other one to make her attack spread wisely. After that, she jumps away from the monster and landed with a hero posture. As she tries to be proud of herself killing these monsters, she didn't notices that there's still another one behind the smoke. Everyone starts to panic to call out Xiao Cao's attention to respond the monster behind her. The monster opens its mouth and ready to eat her up. When she turns around, she saw the monster gnarly going to attack her. Luckily, she dodges it and she almost hit by its attack. Unfortunately, she loses her balance after dodging a sudden attack. Because of the shock, she can't stand anymore while having a thought that she's just trying her best to save her parents, but now she can't even stand still. She starts to get anxious as she thinks she's going to die and losing hope. Her parents want to save her, but they can't do anything since they were too far from her. As the monster dashes toward her, a huge blast happens into the monster's face. Her eyes are so wide open after thinking that this is her last moment. It turns out her grandmother shoots a powerful weapon. She teases everyone that she's not only for a show because she had a skill to fight also. She calls Big Tooth to attack this huge monster, and even though at old age she didn't hesitate to fight this kind of monster. Big Tooth tries to get closer from the monster while the grandma shooting its gun. After passing through them, the monster started to make an unusual turn. Because of this, the grandma got curious why this monster was going on the opposite direction. It turns out that it turns around towards Xiao Cao to attack her again while she's still in her position. So her grandmother ordered Big Tooth to save Xiao Cao while she's going to intercept the demonic halberd pig. She jumps away from Big Tooth to split their position to save Xiao Cao while taking the contact from the halberd pig. She jumps at the top of the halberd pig to shoot its head to make a final blow. Meanwhile, Big Tooth saves Xiao Cao and drag away from the explosion. Xiao Cao panics at her grandmother to think that she's dead. When the fogs fade away, they saw her grandmother laying on the dead body of halberd pig. She rushes her grandmother to check her up immediately while Big Tooth came back to its normal form, also worried for the grandma. Just as sudden, her grandmother made a thumbs up while saying this is just a piece of cake. Because of this, she got happy to think her grandmother was fine. But everything turns upside down as she realized when the fog's fully gone. She saw the monster blood dripping with a hole on its head, while her grandmother was on top of its horn and stabbed by it, but her grandmother still smiles. She began to cry as she saw her grandmother at this position. After an hour of battle against the monsters, the city had been suppressed. The monsters from the city and Manhwa started to go back home. He rushes to go back to their house while crossing dead monsters and being harvested by the citizen of their city. As he got home, he checked his parents' condition if they are all right. His other responded that they are all good and took a good harvest in their region with a depressed looking at their face. He also heard that someone had breakthrough in the battle and became a broken star superhuman. Somehow Manhwa got feel anxious, so he immediately asked about his sister if there's something wrong with her. As his father going to tell the truth, Manhwa rushes toward his sister to check her up since he knows that she could be the one who will the demon queen if he don't help her. He knocks at her door rapidly because of the worried of being so down for herself. As he opens the door, he saw his sister covered from its blanket and shivering. He sits beside her to comfort her. Then Xiao Cao calls for Manhwa. Xiao Cao was crying while thinking he's too horrible after being so weak. She tried to save her parents, but unfortunately she didn't manage to save her Granny Wang from the battle. And right now she's going to die and their grandmother going to turn into a zombie. After hearing those words, Manhwa had been speechless and startled. Xiao Cao repeatedly saying that their grandmother was going to die and going to turn as zombie, but Manhwa wanted her to tell everything exactly what was going on. She cried so hard at Manhwa's chest to lend out her sadness. So she told everything to Manhwa what was happened on that night. Xiao Cao blaming herself that it was her fault for being too weak that made her cause someone to die because of her. She keeps telling to herself that she was too weak. However, Manhwa pulls her to tell that their grandmother sacrificed her life heroically to protect their hometown. Then he comforts her that if their grandmother was still alive, she wouldn't want to see her be like this. Xiao Cao swore that she's going to get stronger and much stronger so that this tragedy won't ever happen again. Manhwa advises her that if her heart was strong, then she will be truly strong, otherwise she will be a slave to her strength. She won't be able to save anyone and she's only bring about an even greater tragedy. Because of those words, she feels a lot more comfortable. Just a moment, their mother came in to call Manhwa to remind them that the Eternal Journey Army was going to come. This is because of they're going to hold a joyful funeral for their grandma, because of it's customary to witness for a joyful funeral. Manhwa wanted to go with Xiao Cao, but she doesn't want to go because of she don't want to see their Granny Wang look like at this moment. Manhwa tries convince her that if she wanted to go stronger, then she must carry the weights to get more courage for herself. She finally comes with Manhwa, and they are now going to come inside to bear witness to their Grandma Wang. The doctors started to check her up, and according to their checkup, Grandma Wang's organs are badly damaged and her pulse are now weak. In order to prevent the zombies from getting out of control, the restraint lock has been buckled. From the corner, Granny Wang's granddaughter Wang Xiaohuan was crying to see her grandmother's situation. Meng Kao approaches her that they are going to stay with her for a while. Xiaohuan feels grateful as she had someone that going to stay with her. Xiao Kao was about to apologize at her, but just a sudden Grandma Wang started to gain conscious and wanted to be freed. She's starting to mutate to turn into a zombie because of the stab that she received and reaches to her blood. Xiaohuan hugs Xiao Kao after being scared of that was going to happen after seeing their grandmother like this. 85% of the patient's brain tissues have died. The patient will lose 100% of her breathing functions in 3 minutes. And lastly, the T35, T44 and R39 viruses in the patient's body are all above the threshold. Grandma Wang's condition was assessed to be beyond the possibility of resuscitation. Everyone was so worried as they saw Grandma Wang's condition. Grandma Wang's family agreed to corpse donation agreement, so Meng Kao and the others will be the witness for this. The doctor looks at Xiao Kao to confirm if she's also willing for it. She responds, "Yes, I am willing." The next is they will allow them to watch the video of the donor has recorded beforehand, to ensure that their next procedure is in accordance with the donor's will. They played a video of Grandma Wang when she's alive to give a message, and she also mentioned if they watch this she must already dead and even became a zombie. She started to leave a message saying, first of all, don't cry because you've been a crybaby since you were a kid and not like the young Ko next door. Xiaohuan started to burst out her feelings that her grandmother leaves a message for her. Her grandmother tries to comfort her that she mustn't going to be sad because there are more than 50 years and many people she could have met entirely with her life. They've both experienced a lot of crazy stuff and she was fortunate enough to live until her age. Also, she mentioned that at her teenage she already had a though about offering her body for the future. She remembered that when she was 14 years old and they hadn't reached the other world yet. The doctor said there are only 3 cases in the world, and not only is the 100% death rate, but the time from detection to death does not exceed 1 week. She decided to donate her body in order to make it possible for people who get this disease to be cured afterward. Later, when her sister died, the doctor gave her the painting that her sister had drawn with her last breath. The star with a smiling face looks like her sister. She folded the picture into 1,000 paper cranes so she could carry it with her. So, their grandma wants to be a star too. She mentioned that Juan and Xiao Kao that she wanted both of them to be able to grow up safely and happily. Because of that, they burst crying again as they heard their grandma's wills. She also mentions Big Tooth if he wanted to live in school and study, he can be leave with their Uncle Meng and Kao from the next door. Xiao Kao promised that she's going to take care of Big Tooth. And that's all the message that she wanted to say. Grandma Wang didn't expect that his husband's luck would be so bad that he'd be torn to pieces by a monster. Instead, she's the one who has the chance to join the eternal journey. She swore that if she sees the old man again, she'd like to see how he can still toot his horn. Suddenly she realized that she hasn't ended the record, so this probably recorded as well. But she let it not to delete. Then Big Tooth starts to lick the camera and the video ended up here. The video had been played in clear, so the doctors asked them if they had objections about this. They all replied that they have no objection about this. Since the family member and the witness had no objections, the conversion ceremony will be begun. Before they start, they wanted to bow 3 times to the volunteer's corpse to show respect. First bow starts by Xiao Huan. Second bow due by Meng Kao and Xiao Kao. Lastly, on the third bow, everyone bows for Grandma's corpse to show respect for her. The doctor will be injecting the virus suppression serum. They began to inject the suppression serum at Grandma's body. They will also implant the memories of volunteers' mutating cerebral cortex with the automatically generated video she made when she signed the agreement. The session had begun to start the process. 3 minutes later, they removed the mask and the oxygen mask. Next step, they will conduct the final test witnesses, so they ordered to the family member to go out from the room for a while. So everyone leaves the room to let the doctors do their job. Xiao Kao was still worried about their Grandma Wang. The doctor started to get ready to start the eternal mission. They remove everything that restrains the body of the zombie. Just a moment, she sits down with a mutated body. Her nails grew into a sharp claw. As she wakes up, she suddenly lunges into one of the doctor that curing her up. Xiao Huan starts to burst out her emotion as she saw her grandmother going to attack someone. However, the guy doesn't seem threatened while pointing his gun even though she attacked him. He confirms if they remember their oath when they requested to join immortality. Because their will can defeat any form and all type of enemy. Even if they die, they also won't let germs and viruses control them. Then the doctor began to show his power tattoo while reminding them. Meng Kao thinks that they are the super being who is specialized in spirit techniques. Grandma began to be a lot wilder because of the side effect of the serum that they inject at her. Xiao Huan tries to waking her up and telling to fight back the sickness while being frightened. She cries as she sees her grandmother suffering because of the sickness. Just as sudden her grandmother teared out. Along with this he smiles at her. It turns out that her brain cell's mutation progress is now controlled. The central nervous system of their grandmother was perfectly maintained and never gets eroded by viruses. And everything backs to normal. The doctor assumes that her surviving memory fragment was deep in the brain cells that helped her control herself. Right now she's no longer a zombie anymore and she's someone that is willing to die for the city and loved ones. She is now having immortality. And everyone starts to salute at their grandmother for being immortal, and now she's going to rest in peace. Some people stayed alive but they're dead long ago. Some people died but are able to stay in fire for eternal life. The doctors guided their grandmother to move forward in the van. Xiao Huan yelled at her grandmother before leaving that she must protect herself along with the Dragon City. She now moves to be transferred. Xiao Cao apologizes at Xiao Huan for being weak that resulted that their grandmother Wang's death. But she responded that she must not be like this because when their grandmother still had her consciousness, she told at her last night that she's actually very strong. Xiao Cao was confused on what she said. Xiao Huan also added that their grandmother was so proud for Xiao Cao for being the bravest girl, and this trait must be learned. She feels relief after hearing those words to remove her burden about herself. After that, Big Fang came up. Since Xiao Huan has to stay in the school, she calls for a help to take care Big Fang with Xiao Cao. Somehow, they remembered that their grandmother placed all the password and other important things in the Big Fang's collar. As they open the bone collar, something falls from it. They picked it up immediately. As they opened the red paper, they saw their grandmother's marriage picture. On the other side, a drawing of a little star by their grandmother. They decided to guard their grandmother's marriage picture and little star. After that incident, they came home nighttime. Meng Kao and Xiao Cao was talking about Xiao Cao's disagreeing to live in Dragon City Ace. She told that she doesn't want to live at Dragon City Ace even though the environment is much better, and there's more spiritual energy there. She only wants to still live at Tianfu Fanyuan, which is their native home. Meng Kao supports her decision and wanting to support her while growing up, and because of that Meng Kao receives another contribution points for decreasing by 5% the darkening chance of Xiao Cao. She wanted to cultivate and become stronger because she doesn't want these kinds of things to happen again. Su Meng Kao swore that from now on she will do 2 more hours of stance to help her to become more stronger. Xiao Cao screamed because she needs to do the stance again. One day before the exam, Meng Kao was so heavily asleep after the encounter from the monster later that day. Somehow Xiao Cao shouted at his ears because there's only 2 days away from the entrance exam, that making him shocked while having a peaceful sleep. Xiao Cao was happy to leave the house to go at her school while Meng Kao was so mad from what she did. Their mother prepared Meng Kao's breakfast and being scolded for being fierce towards his sister. Meanwhile, Meng Kao was watching television while Elder Ning interviewed by the reporters. He stated that he will start to provide free lessons online and teach everyone who wants to learn everything he knows. He added that a while ago he was heavily injured, but luckily he got guidance from a mysterious senior that allowed him to feel reborn. As Meng Kao heard this, he got shocked. So he immediately checks the Tinder for some report from what is happening at this moment. It turns out that his first mission completed, elite citizen Ning Shiwo's hands are 93% healed and recovers advanced functioning. He receives a contribution point, also beginner harvesting techniques proficiency increased by 50%. And lastly, profession stage has increased to great master stage. This time he got more motivated and determined to become one of a hero rank citizen in no time. Tinder suggested Thunder Cross Sword. Because of Elder Ning's contribution points, Thunder Cross Sword can also reach profession stage. Among the monsters in this world, there's a rumor legend to be said. A legend saying regarding a city suddenly appeared in the monster mountain out of nowhere. Around 20 years ago, a strong diamond mine head Hydra grew strong in the monster mountain. It has subdued many monsters. With the momentum, fame, and power give him the idea to destroy the Dragon City to show all monsters his power. On that day, it was 18th of June, and it was said that it's the entrance exam day. Diamond 9-head Hydra had suffered Dragon City's resolutely attacks. Because of this, a lot of environments had been destroyed from this catastrophe. With 10 God Realms super beings cooperation, and even if the monster is an apocalypse monster because it can only escape after being heavily wounded. But this time the Dragon City doesn't seem to let any monster escape, and those who dares to disrupt the entrance exam must be killed. Humans paid a large price after 3 months in exchange to kill the Diamond 9-head Hydra in its nest. However, those monsters who have intelligence and wisdom could feel humans' determination. Thus, this day on 18th of June is marked as a monsters restricted attack day. Dragon City's children can solely focus on entrance exam to use all they have learned and score a great score. They using tilted ground to examine the student's stance, which is a moral examiner made this. The examiner announced to draw out steel armor rhino dragon's main organ structure diagram and point out the weak point. Multiple questions start to ask him while Menkeo easily answered it all. After 4 hours of exam, Menkeo starts to submit all his answers. Even though there is still 1 hour left before exam ends, he still submitted. He checked his answers 3 times so he was sure there's no problem, and he also remember exam has prepared recovery medical capsule. 1 hour later the exam was done and most of the students was so exhausted and tired. Shu came out from the exam along with his companion, and he was so mad that he even threatened the creator of the immoral exam. Shu calls for his classmates to take the medical capsule to recover their strength before they going to find Menkeo. His friends start to think that they must follow him in order to get a good score from the exam. Shu approaches the nurse who set up the medical capsule, but she was so shocked as she saw Chu so huge. His classmates were talking about to someone who submitted his exam paper 1 hour before the exam ends. And this was Menkeo. And they had no idea who was this. From out of nowhere, Menkeo exits the medical capsule. Chu and the others was so shocked as they saw him already finished from medical capsule while the nurse was admiring him so much. Menkeo greeted Chu of how was his test. As they saw him they assumed that if he was the crazy student that everyone talking about, while Menkeo was so mad to think he beaten up again by him. Without answering his question they immediately go inside the medical capsule to start the recovery. Menkeo was so confused as he saw them acting weird. After 1.5 hours, they go inside the results counter to check the result of their exam score. Shu and the other was curious how much does Menkeo score have while being nervous to think if they pass. As Menkeo called Chu to tell his score he closes his ears because he doesn't to hear it. Because of that Menkeo had an idea. He used this to scare him up to have him a doubt of confusion to possible result. Somehow Chu decided to remove this curiosity and wanting to Menkeo to tell his scores. Menkeo said that he had 939 marks and currently ranking at 1084 places in the city. Because of that they wanting to go straight to the front line and take the practical test even though they are tired and destroyed. Menkeo assumes that they must still need to strengthen their mental training for getting easily to shock. After a few hours they finally arriving to the next exam. One of the guards stops them to check. The guard advises them to get off the bus to change into armored train in order to cross the river. All the students of 9th school gets off the bus to be transferred. Everyone fall in line while Menkeo and Chu was talking about the Red Dragon River from crossing the river from Jiangnan region. However, Chu's attitude changed again while talking at Menkeo. Out of nowhere the guard starts to notice something under the bridge. Also, the students started to notice too that there's a monster in the river that made their attention got. It turns out that there's a fish-like creature monster on the river that was going to attack the city. Somehow an armored airship arrives at the area to execute the monster to prevent unnecessary things to happen. They attacked the monster using the missile and landed into the river. A large blast explosion happened that resulting to the monster to break apart its body. Because of that the monster died after a large explosion pops up under it. The armored airship drops a net to take the dead body of this monster to harvest it in cultivation harvester site. Just a moment another sea creature monsters jumps out from the water to attack the armored airship. But they shoot it to stop these monsters and also they will benefit by this to harvest all the dead monsters. The 9th students was so cheered up so see these such action that happen in front of them that resulting to admire these people. Beside them there's a people who was in the action that warning them up to use some diapers for the actual test to avoid wetting their pants. Shu got mad at these people for being egoistic people and teasing them so much. Just a few moments the train finally arriving for their location using the armored train to transfer them. Everyone was so excited to get inside without wasting any time. The train are now arriving for their next location. They are currently at Jiangnan region, which a dangerous threat because of the monsters who live in this area. Shu was so amazed as he saw a torrent of steel in this region for being more advanced from their homeland. He even swears inside the train while seeing these such beautiful view. Dragon City Cannon was one of the powerful weapons of Dragon City that managed to kill a huge amount of monster in small area. A guy tells to their classmates that the engineers are now modifying the Dragon Cannon and now can even fire nuclear shells. One of his classmates can't believe that this possible, while the other admiring to kill the majesty of the Dragon Cannon at full power. However, one of the student assumes if the Dragon Mega Cannon fires or even fires nuclear shells means that Dragon City is in the most dangerous situation. On the other side, Menkeo had a headache just a sudden that made him can't focus to the details he needed. Somehow, he saw a glimpse of his past that a monster was lunging toward the Mega Cannon. and when it shoots, a large blast happens from these monsters. The train stops after an hour of arrival. They are now finally landed to their location, and Manhwa starts to observe the whole place. On the other side, outside the Jiangnan region, something was about to happen, that a monster getting ready. Meanwhile, the students came inside the cultivation to start their exam. The examiner advises them to they split depends on their gender to take their battle suits. In 10 minutes, they must gather at the same place, and for those who are late will be treated as failing this physical test. And they dismissed. Chu was shivering so hard from the coldness of the water when they taking a bath. Manhwa pours a bucket of cold water at him to tease his Chu for being so coward only in water. They finally wear their suits in order to start the training for the examination. Chu was wondering why was the battle suit so thin and has a bunch of wire interfaces. But Manhwa scolded him for thinking too much that may can cause their delay. The time ends for waiting, and the examiner announced that for those who are late will stay and wait for the physical test to end. He gives the students to play the 4 great battle profession introductions. The battle profession introduction starts to play. The captain of Red Dragon Army has introduced for having obtained heroic spirits recognition Black Steel Protector God, the Spirit Guardian. They show the Black Steel Protector God capable using the machine gun. The Black Steel Protector God power is indestructible. They even fused with the Spirit Soldier to be a lot more powerful. After showing how much powerful the Spirit Guardian was, she now going to show how powerful was this in offense. She demonstrates the power. As she swings, the Spirit Guardian did the same, and because of being so powerful, they destroyed the machine gun with just one swing. Chu got amazed again when he saw her so wildly strong. He started to dream to have a Spirit Guardian too for himself while he's shaking Manhwa for being excited. Manhwa explains that in order to become Spirit Guardian, he must have to be good in all stats such as wisdom, personality, character, strength. Just as sudden, multiple armored van and airship arrives that caught their attention. It turns out this was army by someone superhuman being named Mechanic, which has a fighting robot. Manhwa had a thought of Dragon City technique getting better. Armored drone with thinking brain along with enhanced outer bones armor flow battle more that increases Mechanic's position. On the other side, a woman was approaching a huge monster. She stated that she can summon. She uses her power to call insect groups to fight this monster. A bunch of insect groups starts to dug out under the land. It turns out that she was a tamer that could tame monsters to control for fight with her. She used this monster to fight another monster, and this is the specialty of a tamer. Manhwa and the other students was preparing to start the examination. There are many resources to this place, so he must have to think an effective way to fight. When tamer controls monster at the same time, some brain's nerve will be opened, so it will be easy to get invaded by monster. However, his brain has many secrets that he must protect. Zhenpeng was also fighting some monster, and his specialty is the energy that flows in his body and uses traction to heaven and earth as spiritual energy. He unleashed shocking ultimate move to try this out since he was trying to observe how much effectiveness of his new move. Zhenpeng's specialty was martial artist, and he's one of the 4 great battle professions. The video ended after that, and Manhwa got excited after watching the martial artist has accurate punches, making use of own body, and burst open a golden light path that made him interest. The examiner puts a helmet to guide them through their journey. He announced that successfully connected all communication devices had been already set up. All the student body's stats became normal. The physical test had been announced to begin. Their mission is stated that the army has discovered an earth building in the deep part of the fog which has very likely to have important things or battle resources. While the other Army 5523 team's mission is to clean the Liming Mechanic factory area and slaughter all the monster with the factory and claim the factory while getting their civilization back. At 12 midnight, physical test officially begins, and they began to fight some ferocious rats. Some students managed to kill some of these monsters without an ease using their different type of specialty. However, Manhwa was planning to avoid ferocious devour rat escaping from the exam area. From the outer area has devour rat natural enemies pheromone, which means there's a limited amount of devour rat near the outer area. A guy telling to the other that let the newbie waste their time near the outer area. Fang Da from first high was confused why they don't fighting with the others. Zai Feng from second high responded that facing devour rat and the others aren't interesting for them. However, Luo Hai from construction high was observing Manhwa, and he was determined that he must not underestimate Manhwa.
The ferocious rats start to climb up toward the Fang Da, Zai Feng, and Luo Hai. Somehow, they are planning to move forward when Manhwa was near from the finish line while trying to sustain the monsters that trying to attack them. While Luo Hai also trying to restrain some ferocious rats, he was thinking of what does Manhwa currently doing. On the other side, someone was planning to dug out. He was putting the white sugar, chocolate, and high-energy nutrition on a container. After putting it all together, he stirs it up and put it into his chemical combinator to mix it. It turns out that this guy was Mankeo and he successfully a ball of chemical that he mixed earlier. He put it into the hole that he dug earlier. As he put it into the hole, a bug monster starts to lunges to the ball that he put in the hole. However, he picked up one of the bugs that he needed using a tweezer. He immediately sliced it in half. Then he immediately extracted the bug's oil and put it into the container. Meanwhile, the teachers are watching Mankeo's doings that they made them confused at him for playing bugs instead killing some monsters for some points because he hasn't even earned a single point. However, Teacher Yen notices Mankeo's harvest technique looks so familiar for him as he watching him. Going back to Mankeo, he was still harvesting for some materials that he needs to make his plans to work. Unfortunately, a monster was spotted him. It lunges at him and he luckily managed to dodge its attack. Even though the monster keeps attacking him, he didn't care about it and still doing his experiment unbothered. After extracting the oil, he started to kill the monster that trying to attack him. Killing these monsters seems easy for him even though he's doing more than this. He stabs the ferocious rats and he manages to hit its vital points that resulting to kill of these monsters in only one stab. The teachers thinking him to be naughty for his action and some of the teacher amazed for him to manage kill the rats for only one blow of his knife. Somehow one of the teacher notices him for sitting down again. Mankeo sits down again to open the container that he had even though there are too many ferocious rats lurking around the area he didn't care. He puts a cooking pot into a portable stove that made everyone confused and then Mankeo extracted the female rat's reproductive gland. Along with this he put the crawler liquid that can stimulate the nervous system. He also added acetaminophen and cardiotonic drugs, so they assume that this drug will not be used for humans instead for something. After finishing his experiment, he injected into a rice ball. He finally finished his experiment and he called this a special rice ball. Mankeo now started to rush to do his plan and he stated that he's going to prepare the dinner. Meanwhile, the teacher's lobby, they are amazed how Mankeo become a science geek at 9th grade that made everyone from the lobby shocked from his doing. One of the tower was someone observing him far away. This was Principal Sun and he was curious why Mankeo running toward the sewer line even though there's full of traps, but he assumes that he will go to the core and going to surprise him from his plan. Inside the sewer line, Mankeo put the special rice ball all over the sewer line while the strong smell of this food are scattered around. One of the teachers had no idea of what is he doing, so he called from one of the observatory staff to turn on the thermal scanning to take a look. As they opened the thermal scanning, they got shocked that a bunch of rats have been attracted to the food that he throws all over the place. Teacher Yen assumes that Mankeo's plan is working. A bunch of ferocious rats had been scattered all over the place. It turns out the Mankeo's plan was going to lurk all the ferocious rats to the food where he set up a bomb and where he can use a bunch of grenades that he bought earlier and his plans works well. A large explosion happens that made everyone so shocked as they felt the huge explosion. Zaifeng confused who bought so many hand grenades in this exam and Luo Hai explains that Mankeo must planning to kill the ferocious rats in just one blow. Because of this they got their attention to Mankeo and motivated to kill more monsters. The leaderboard showed up for leading up with Fang Da, Luo Hai, Zaifeng and lastly Mankeo. They came together to fight the ferocious rats that are attacking them. Fang Da got flattered as he saw the leaderboard that Mankeo manages to kill 700 rats in an instant. Zaifeng doubting Mankeo was the one who did the large explosion. They are confused how Mankeo manages to kill this much rats even though they are in the most densely populated area in the whole factory. Lu Hai calls for their attention to focus to kill some few rats, because the main show will be happen during the midnight so they must focus their attention. They agreed at him because the midnight's ferocious beasts are much 10 times stronger than the ferocious devour rat. Fang Da advises them he remember Mankeo's cheapest sword which is lightning battle sword. Since it was cheap he assumed that Mankeo won't participate for the next test. On the other side Mankeo was observing the hunt statistics and he saw the result for being not that bad. He jumps down on the tree and he was aiming to give all he can in order to enroll in the best profession. Because of the explosion under the sewer line, some of the bugs had been affected from the explosion earlier. He picked up a scorpion bug in order to proceed for his next plan. Everyone shocked from this, so they had a thought that he might make another rice ball but he doesn't have grenade anymore. But female teacher notices that he picked poison insect, blacktail bullet scorpion and red gigantic centipede that's suitable for wild area battle. One of the observer staff assumed that because of his unusual plans he seemed veteran from the fog for many times. He got interested for Mankeo's skill. Mankeo extracts the scorpion and centipede's poison sac and harvests it without any problem. After this he mixes everything inside the container for the next plan. It turns out that he was going to apply the poison to his sword in order to make it more useful even though it's cheap. After applying the poison, he decided to make a test. Test 1 is poison stickiness and it was excellent. Test 2 is the time until poison take effect and also excellent. After this he lay himself from the dead ferocious rat to put the blood on his entire body. The next plan of attracting illusion shadow cat's preparation and he already completed his preparation. All the foreplay he did is now done, so he just need to wait for now until the arrival of the next wave. At 3 a.m., the releasing of the second wave of monster had begun. The monstrous wave was about to begin. Sharp long claw and glowing green eyes with the trait of a cat had been released for the next wave. The announcer starts to announce that the second wave of monster had been released through the area, so they must prepare. Unfortunately, some students had no skill to fight these monsters, so some of them immediately fails on the exam and wiped out. Principal announced that they must be alerted and take note of the students' stats to avoid a possible candidate to die inside the cultivation exam. Meanwhile, Manhwa seems calmly waiting for the second wave monsters. Even though he got surrounded, he just keeps waiting for them. Just a moment, the monsters lunges at him, but he's still so calm under the tree without even moving an inch. As one of the monsters attacks him, he calculates this just in time and he immediately moved when the monster was about to attack him. He took his sword with a poison in it and slashed it to the monster. As he expected, the poison can easily destroy their hearing and balance system. Some of the monsters are lunging at him. Because of his skill, he manages to fight these monsters without any problem. After kicking the monster behind him, another monster dashes toward him to attack him. The monster was about to attack him and he prepared to counter it. He used his knee to attack the monster and he successfully hit it. After that, he decided to move for the next area since he was done with the testing he needed from the sword that he made. Because of the poison that he put on his sword, he barely manages to kill some of the second wave monsters without an ease. He keeps moving forward even though the monster was attacking him, but he can kill them all. Because of Manhwa's sword skill, the teachers got amazed at him. They had a doubt that Manhwa was probably exceed the sword skill of Luohai, but the other teacher told her that there's no way he would surpass him since Luohai's father was a 6-star super being Shatter Soul Sword. They got scolded by another teacher and wanting to watch Manhwa going toward the inner area. They saw Manhwa fighting the monsters all by himself and he manages to most of the monsters that trying to rush him. As he expected, the inner area has more illusion shadow cat lurking around. But something caught his attention when he saw the other illusion shadow cat. He saw someone that better at attracting illusion shadow cats than him, so he checks it out. He saw 3 people, which is Fang Da, Fei Xing and Luo Hai, fighting the monsters together. As they saw Manhwa, they think that he will steal their points from killing the monster that they lure. However, Luo Hai doesn't want to talk about the fact that stealing of points are not allowed inside the test. But currently, from their situation, his lungs are about to burst and explode, so he can't wait for Manhwa to come and help them. Manhwa gladly, these 3 students are barely hanging in their position. But for the sake of the exam, he decided to help them and he pours another chemical into his body. Because of the aroma from the chemical that he poured from his body, the monster's attention goes to him. He prepares himself from incoming monsters. He was planning to buy some time for them to recover their strength while he was going to fight the monsters. They immediately sits down to meditate to speed up their recovery while Manhwa attracting the other monster. Manhwa was focusing to fight the monster all by himself. At the first wave of attack, he only had one chance to make his plans to be successful. He simultaneously attacks the monster and each of them that trying to attack Manhwa was dying one by one. Time to time he manages to kill every incoming monster from the area. The meantime, the monsters that he slashed had been died from the poison from his sword. Even though Manhwa helps them, Fang Da still underestimating Manhwa for relying from the poison sword. However, Luo Hai had some conclusion from his mind. He was thinking, if Manhwa's poison sword got run out of poison, is he going to do other cards up to his sleeves? Manhwa also noticed that the sword's poison already worn out. Somehow he actually have another tactic and he wants to teach Luo Hai on how to contribute to Dragon City. Just a moment, an illusion shadow cat lunges at him while he's off guarded. Unexpectedly, he used his hand inside the monster's mouth while saying bullets and swords aren't the only weapons. He added that in combat, everything around them is a weapon, like the uniforms that they wear. All of them got confused as Manhwa giving them a guidance while taking the test and fighting the monster. They saw Manhwa draining away the defense of his gel fighting suit. Manhwa stating that it takes a lot of energy and strength to dodge the attacks of the phantom cats and to find the phantom cats hiding in the shadow. But they use the suit as a shield and a decoy. They will be able to hunt more efficiently. The monsters attack him immediately, but Manhwa was still so calm to giving them advices about the point of being deducted for damaging the gel suit. Fang Da asked him if what is he going to do after losing Poison Blade and the gel fighting suit. Fei Xing and Luo Hai just listening to him while Manhwa giving them a guidance. Suddenly Manhwa throws the helmet on the floor. He stated that everything is a weapon in a real battlefield. He removes his clothes because his current plan was going to fight these monsters using his whole body. He explains that the illusion cats are characterized by their speed and ability to hide themselves, but since he's using his gel camouflage uniform as bait and intentionally letting the illusion cats bite him, because of this it allows him to get rid of illusion cat's greatest advantage in a single stroke. Even if the monster is ferocious without the advantage, they will be still too weak for everyone. The monsters suddenly stopped to move as they felt threatened. Manhwa took his med kit to cure some of his wounds to continue move forward. Manhwa drinks the booster that he bought earlier to regain his cardio from normal. Luohai had no wonder that Manhwa exchanged his written test scores for the emergency kit because he already planned to use the injury for like method of fighting. Fei Xing's martial arts had no match for Manhwa, and Fang Da's marksmanship also far ahead from him. But the only thing they can't surpass Manhwa is the toughness from him. After drinking the potion that he used, he wanted to fight more, and they were shocked as Manhwa can still fight in this state. It is because of the Dragon City's technology. He rushes the monster to kill a large number of monsters as their goal. He didn't waste any time to squeeze every bit of his energy from their body. Even his sword doesn't have poison anymore, he still manages to fight the illusion Shadow Cat without an ease and flawlessly. After he killed the monsters that trying to attack them, Fan Da asked him if he's not scared of dying, and he responded, "Of course I am." While the monster going attack him, he told them that in battle the more scared you are, the higher chance that you will die. If they want to live, they must risk their life and seek a chance to live. Then he slashed that monster that going to attack him while explaining that in World Battleground, stronger monsters, space-time turbulence, countless changes could happen at any time. The only thing they can do is to end it speedily. Meanwhile at Observation Room, the military Colonel Zhang told to their soldier to investigate Manhwa for being talented individual because he might take by Dragon City's military school. Someone approaches Colonel Zhang for not asking Manhwa opinion if he's not scared to join from the military school. Because this guy observes Manhwa personality that if he joined to their Dragon City martial art course, his future will be bright and unimaginable. However, someone scolded them for not spoiling their relationship because of Manhwa. The woman was proudly introduced that Manhwa's father was a harvester also in their academy with Elder Ning, so she teases them up to give up their hope from Manhwa. Going back at Manhwa, he's now currently ranked 273 in whole city, so he killed enough monsters and he's going to wait for the next wave. Luohai and Fang Da thinking a way to kill much illusion Shadow Cat because these monsters seem to be scared from Manhwa. Somehow, they decided just to rest and wait for the boss that will coming in. A notification from their wrist hologram came up. The next wave was the Shatter Sword Python that going to be released. They got frightened as they saw the Shatter Sword Python because this is one of the strongest snake-type tyrants among the super beast. However, Manhwa seemed getting interested from the current year exam. Fang Da thanks him for helping them from increasing their combat experience, but he was curious how is he going to face the Shatter Sword Python. He replied that he will do nothing since he had enough points already, so he has nothing to fight for. Because of his answer, they got shocked as they heard Manhwa replied this casually. Somehow, Manhwa was fooling around them and he will fight with his current state while waiting and taking the last few hits. He told them that he's just going to wait them until they run out of energy and wanting to leave the battle, so during that time, he needs to find a chance to attack. Luohai realized that Manhwa's reason for killing the illusion Shadow Cats madly it is because of he wanted to force his group to fight the Shatter Sword Python, but he asks how Manhwa knew the boss will be Shatter Sword Python. He explains that 1 month ago when the death and casualties of the test were posted, the test for the ability to gather key information started. Somehow he belittled the virtual battleground for fulfilling the student's goal without realizing they fall into even more dangerous situation. They realized that Manhwa was right about it and somehow he received contribution points. Luohai got amazed at him for making a plan a month ago without getting inside the test. So they decided to listen for him since Manhwa helped them from moral support and from life and death situation. After Manhwa teaches them, he was hoping that they can heavily injured some Shatter Sword Python and let him fight after that.
The Shatter Sword Python starts to lurk around the building. Zai Feng, Fang Da, and Luohai starts to prepare themselves for the incoming monsters to attack them. All of a sudden above Fang Da, one of the Shatter Sword Pythons breaks in from their location. Meanwhile, another Shatter Sword Python came up from the front door. Just a moment, another one showed up beside Fang Da. He was gladly that there's only 3 of the Shatter Sword Pythons that they could able to handle. Unfortunately, another one came up from the front door, so there's total of 4 Shatter Sword Python inside the building. They charge at these monster and planning to split up to fight while trying to be careful of getting entangled by it. However, Fang Da has to fight 2 Shatter Sword Pythons at the same time because they are only 3 people inside the area. Fang Da panics so hard from the ferocious attacks of the Shatter Sword Pythons. As he tried to run away from the situation to seek for help from Manhwa, the other Shatter Sword Python was going to lunge at him. Luckily, he dodges it immediately. He wants to Manhwa to come out because there's a possible that he could die from this situation. As he trying to recover himself, the Shatter Sword Python was preparing to lunge at him again. So, he had no choice. He picked up his sword to fight back since he had no choice to wait for Manhwa anymore. The Shatter Sword Python attacks him. He tries to dodge it and land an attack with his sword. Somehow, the scales of Shatter Sword Python were too tough that he can't even pierce it. Suddenly, it goes to slam its body toward Fang Da, so he immediately reacts into it. The Shatter Sword Python pushed him back while there's another Shatter Sword Python waiting for him. The Shatter Sword Python doesn't have any weak points, so he was thinking of a way how can he defeat it. Unfortunately, he got slammed at the floor by the Shatter Sword Python. Even though how powerful he got slammed, he still manages to stand up. He was still determined to fight back even though he don't have a weapon anymore. He dodges every attack of the Shatter Sword Python, and there are 59 seconds remaining. The timer starts to beat down and 45 seconds left. 30 seconds remaining. 20 seconds remaining, and he suddenly tripped into a rock. 10 seconds remaining. The Shatter Sword Python passed through him. Unfortunately, his foot caught by this. He became hopeless for being cornered, and he had a thought that he's going to die from this situation. The Shatter Sword Python attacks him immediately, and there's nothing he can do after having no weapon and having severe damages. However, someone manages to cut through the Shatter Sword Python's backbone and staying away from the battle for 1 minute. This doesn't count as snatching. He added that now he will be taking the Shatter Sword Python. Fang Da felt relief after that for escaping from death. This guy took a Shatter Sword Python's blood. It turns out that this guy was Manhwa who saved him from the death situation. However, Manhwa asks him if he wants some Python blood. Fang Da was so shocked after being clueless for what Manhwa doing just of a sudden. He explains that he's just refilling his energy since the Shatter Sword Python was precious monster, so he doesn't want to waste it. While dismantling, he explains that the Python-type monster's flesh has many spiritual energy because it can excite central nerve system, unleash cell potential. The Python gallbladder can refresh brain, excite brain cell, excite life force limit, and Python's heart have a few drops of blood for having effectiveness than normal snake blood for pure excite medicine. Fang Da assumes that Manhwa was probably a barbarian to have this much knowledge. Just a moment, Zai Feng and Luo Hai came back and thinking that he's the one who fought the 2 Shatter Sword Python. But he denies it in saying that all of this was caused of Manhwa. Manhwa drank the blood of the python that he took earlier that made everyone shocked for this. Just as sudden their wristwatch alarmed to notify them. Manhwa thought that someone must have encountered danger, so he invites them to move forward to rescue the other. They go at the riveting workshop to check the situation. However, they noticed the ambience from the area and felt something unusual. Manhwa warned them to be careful because of having a feeling strange at the area. Suddenly someone calling for help while being chased down by one monster. He got startled as he saw the monster bites one of the students' head and noticing that this monster wasn't belong here. This was a blood demon wolf. The blood moon demon wolf was king among wolves, which a carnivorous creature that able to secrete a special hormone and forms blood fog, and they often appears in groups with high wisdom. He's so shocked for having a boss rank monster in this test. And this kind of monster was a ferocious monster. Suddenly Principal Sun dropped somewhere to land a blow into this monster while telling to them that the test ground was dangerous. The physical test had been stopped because of the danger of the test ground, so Manhwa asks how bad the situation was that even Principal Sun had to come. Principal Sun explains that the test was temporarily stopped because the fog had been invaded and all students should immediately disperse. Luo Hai voluntarily told him that they could stay behind and help him up. Zai Feng and Fang Da also agreed with it to lend some help. But Manhwa refuses them to help since they are not hunters yet also. He mentions that they can't even survive from the first wave, so they must retreat immediately. They got speechless after Manhwa looked down on them. Principal Sun agreed with him because these ferocious beasts aren't something for them to deal with. Principal Sun jumps away to notify the other students for temporary cancellation of the exam. Somehow a monster groaned behind them. They notice that there's one more thing they had to do before leaving. Manhwa advises them to avoid fighting near the cracked floor to avoid any problem while fighting. Manhwa gives them a go signal to lunge at the monsters. They manage to kill some of these blood moon demon wolves with the guide of Manhwa. Luo Hai was so motivated to fight these monsters to get better. However, Manhwa was giving orders at them since he had more skill than them to avoid any unwanted things to happen. All of a sudden, the floor where Manhwa stepping was suddenly split in half. Because of this, he got distracted and a monster was going to lunge at him. He lost his balance because of that scenario. Manhwa fall from the ridge because he can't do anything since a monster was going to attack him. However, he noticed that this fog was something he knew. It turns out that this is a time turbulence and he was about to fall from this. After falling from the time turbulence, Manhwa and the monster have been teleported somewhere. Because the monster wasn't letting go his sword, he using his mouth to bite, but he has shoulder dislocated. He cursed this monster for acting arrogant at it and swearing that after he fix his arms he will slice this monster into pieces. Manhwa slams his shit on a tree to fix his dislocated bones. He explores the place, and upon his assumption he thinks he got teleported into the forest. Luckily, this isn't the worst situation on their position. They aren't deep within the area. From out of nowhere, he heard someone swearing from this place, and it sounds familiar for him. It turns out that Fang Da also teleported at this area. Meanwhile, someone approached them after encountering space turbulence. It was Zai Fang and Luo Hai who'd also fall from the time turbulence and teleported into the forest. Suddenly, he remembered from his past that after the entrance exam, the Dragon City's outer area's space ripple has often faced unpredictable small cracks space turbulence. He was so shocked as the Tinder showed up again for an escape mission, Blood Moon Slaughter, where he need to save many people from the blood. The Blood Moon Demon Wolves hunt and inspire and save as many participants as possible, and the reward will be start from 5,000 to 10,000. He got startled from the 10,000 contribution points because of this mission difficulty, and the danger is not going to be low. If he picks this mission, he had to do it for his sake or for the sake of Dragon City. Luo Hai asks what are they going to do at this time, but Manhwa advises them to wait for the reinforcement team to arrive and look for the other students. They heard a howl far away from their place. They knew that this was a group of wolves from the forest. Manhwa explains that this was only caused by the blood fog that spreaded by the Blood Moon Demon Wolf to disrupt their sense of smell and hearing. So he warns them that they are just trying to scare them and attack them one by one. However, Blood Moon Demon Wolf's blood has a certain block function against such poison. He gave them a cotton balls to block their nose and reduce Wolf Howl's disruption to its maximum. They immediately wear it to avoid smelling the Blood Moon blood. All of a sudden, one of the demon wolf attacks them from out of nowhere. But luckily, Manhwa was aware for it and saved Fan Da. He warns them if they panic and run toward the city, they will make the wolf group's hunting area. Luo Hai and Zai Feng volunteered to stay behind to fight the monsters, while Manhwa going to take care of the injured people. Luckily for them, the wolves that they fought has low combat ability, so they managed to survive. Manhwa tries to gather everyone to take care while waiting for the reinforcement. He took the lead for a while to boost their morale and demanding to wait for the Red Dragon Army and Super Being to come to save them. Manhwa receives contribution points for inspiring the other students' spirit status. He tries to stall the monsters while the other students running away to save themselves. Unfortunately, the wild environment is complicated and they have way too less people, and due to lacking of light they can't find the other students in short amount of time. All of a sudden, he had an idea about light. He commanded everyone to light up a fire and let everyone come find them, and they will also provide reinforcement with coordinates and marks. But Luo Hai, thinking that this might cause the wolf group find them also. Manhwa explains that even if they don't light a fire, the wolf group will always know where they are by their sense of smell. When they are in the dark and can't find each other, they will think they are alone and abandoned, then become scared and depressed. The more depressed they get, the more panicked they get. The more easily they breathe in the blood fog and fall into a vicious cycle and ending up to be crazy. Because of the fire's light, it can gather all students to increase their power and also increasing their surviving chance. The fire starts to light up and spread the awareness to other students. Because of this, some students have been noticing this. They start to move forward for it, for assuming someone must be there. They use this as navigation toward the other and starts to gather. Students have come and they are so gladly that there's people out here to save them. Manhwa calls everyone to have a feast since everyone was tired, and they must rest for a while before the wolves come. Suddenly someone seems a giant monster has appeared that made everyone panics. Luo Hai had no idea for its appearance and had to think this was a new monster. As Manhwa turns around, he didn't expect this. The person that they thought a monster was actually Chu with the other students. However, Chu was confused. How did they manage to gather so many people with them than him? Manhwa explains that this caused by his personal charms. Chu responded that he also relied on his personal charms. Therefore, Manhwa gives him a food to replenish his energy, and Chu was so happy about this. Someone asked Manhwa why would he didn't run back to the city when he was thrown away. He explains that although the lights are close, it's at least 10 kilometers away and the fog is so thick that many monsters are on patrol in the dark, rashly fleeing the trial, and there is only one way to die. Just a moment, they are preparing to fight again. The Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to surround them and everyone starts to get anxious. Some students have been panicking so hard after being surrounded by these wolves and having a thought that they are going to die. The Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to lurk around the dark to prepare their attack. Luo Hai starts to thinking of how they will possibly able to withstand these monsters. But Manhwa told him not to be scared because the Blood Moon Demon Wolves are not strong when they are alone, so as long as they hold together they could survive. Shu supports this, that he just killed 2 Blood Moon Demon Wolf all by himself to motivate the morale of the other students. The students seem start to calm down for a bit. On the other side, the wolves start to move on their way to attack them. Menkeo told them not to be afraid because this is the wolves' plan to disturb the enemy. As long as they hold their ground, they can't do anything to them. From out of nowhere, something fall from above Fang Da and one of the students. A dead body fell down at the ground and they got shocked about it. The student starts to panic as they saw a dead body fall beside them and they run away. They didn't expect that this was an actual plan of the Blood Moon Demon Wolf to scatter from the group. Luckily, the skilled students are aware for them and manages to save them from the ferocious monster. Shu advises Menkeo to gather the other students from 9th school and save as many as they can. Because of this, he had an idea. He calls out all the 9th school students to come at him immediately. The Blood Moon Demon Wolf group starts to surround them and preparing to attack them at the same time. Menkeo and the other 9th school students starts to form a line to plan something to fight these monsters. They prepare the 100 sword technique first style howling cutter all together to land a powerful slash to these monsters at the same time. Fang Da also take the lead for the first high students to gather to do the same plan as Menkeo did. Along with this, Zai Feng also call the other students to show their guts and energy to let the beast know their power. However, Luo Hai was the only student from Construction High and he felt awkward that he can't call someone for him. The students have their own group to fight these monsters since the Blood Moon Demon Wolf's weakness was being alone. Shu was complimenting Menkeo for being good leader, but Menkeo told him that it's not done yet because he had something that he could fear more. The Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to howl, and the students caught their attention by this. These wolves start to act strange after the howl they did. All of a sudden, one of the Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to mutate that made Menkeo shock as he saw this. Everyone starts to get anxious as they saw the Blood Moon Demon Wolf change its appearance. It turns out that this is Blood Moon Wolf King, a nightmare rank ferocious beast, and Menkeo knew that this wasn't a good sign. Another bloody battle was going to happen after the Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to have their king. From out of nowhere, the Blood Moon Demon Wolf charges its mouth to attack them just as sudden. He warns everyone to run away and watch out from the mind attack from Blood Moon Wolf King Terror Blood Flame, and also there's no way they can survive at this situation. Unfortunately, one of the students caught off guard by the Terror Blood Flame. He saw the Blood Moon Wolf King so furiously in front of him. However, Menkeo felt something strange, that a mere super beast shouldn't be scared of them as bunch of students and they could actually attack them together and kill them in just a few moves. Although it's been spraying the blood mist, but it doesn't want to join the fight and seems worried for something. As Menkeo observes the Wolf King, he assumes that this monster was hurt even though it transformed. So he decided to announce that the Wolf King is heavily wounded, so it will die any moment, and its only purpose is to disperse them and kill them when they are all alone. Shu supported this because of there's nothing will happen if they scatter around and only getting be killed by these monster. All of a sudden, the Wolf King lunges at Menkeo and the other students. Because of the Wolf King's agility, Menkeo didn't manage to react from it and receive a severe wound from it. The Wolf King was so furious, it suddenly used the Terror Blood Flame at Menkeo. Unfortunately, normal human and nightmare ferocious beast's power level gap can't be close with just techniques. Because of this, he begun to see the Wolf King a lot more scary than ever. The Blood Moon Demon Wolves lunges at the other students. However, Chu starts to worry about Menkeo's situation because he's in danger. The Wolf King was so fast that made him so shocked that the Wolf King was already close. But he doesn't care and he wanted to kill the Wolf King even though it costs his life. From out of nowhere, Principal Sun came up to landed a spiritual energy blow at the Wolf King and resulting to got slammed at the floor. The Wolf King splattered blood from its mouth. It tries to jump away from the situation to avoid getting hit again. The sword that pinned down from the nape of the Wolf King earlier had been removed. Menkeo startled as he saw Principal Sun helping him up all of a sudden. Principal Sun told him to protect himself as he going to fight this monster, but in Menkeo's thought he notices that Principal Sun didn't drag by the space turbulence. Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to rushing toward Principal Sun to attack him, but he killed it easily by just wiping his hand to these monsters without an ease. The Wolf King starts to get angrier that he even makes a menace look. Principal Sun was going to approach the Wolf King. He jumps while charging his spiritual energy into his arms to attack the demon wolf. Unfortunately, the Wolf King dodges it because of having too much agility. Even after getting injured, the Wolf King was still so agile. Principal Sun made another punch called Shatter Space Destructive Fist and landed it so well. He didn't stop here and made another follow-up attack. He used double, and because of this the Wolf King receives a large amount of damage. The Wolf King becomes so mad again, so it tries to attack Principal Sun for being burst out from anger. Unlucky for the Wolf King, Principal Sun dodges his attack and kicks him immediately after landing a strike. Principal Sun used Meditate Lion to jump while preparing his foot, barrage as he called, and he successfully landed to the Wolf King. He moves closer after assuming the Wolf King being defeated so easily. However, Menkeo warns him that the Wolf King wasn't dead yet and the Wolf King attacks Principal Sun. Principal Sun flew away after receiving the blow while Menkeo got frightened for the nightmare-rank ferocious beast for having this much wisdom. Even Principal Sun was a remnant star super being can barely fight against this monster. Principal Sun commanded to Menkeo to not stay and quickly lead the other students and leave the area, but Menkeo worried about the injury that Principal Sun had. He told to Menkeo that this type of wound is nothing for him. With spiritual flame to speed up his blood, it's nothing for him at all. Menkeo got pushed away by Principal Sun to make him leave immediately because this kind of monster is not high schooler problem. All of a sudden something entangled from Principal Sun's hands. It turns out that this was the Wolf King's tail and it's planning to pull him close to him. Principal Sun dragged closer to Wolf King, but he cast a spiritual energy to attack the Wolf King. The king dashes toward him. He's pulling Principal Sun closer. As they about to engage to each other, Principal Sun used to send magic pestle to the Wolf King. Overturn, as he said. A large explosion happened from the area where Principal Sun and Wolf King fighting. Menkeo starts to worry about Principal Sun. Just as sudden he had a glance at Principal Sun. The large explosion starts to escalate. The meantime, the Wolf King began a lot more careful as he recognized the power of the remnant star Principal Sun. They both glaring to each other after their collision. Somehow, the Wolf King and the other Blood Moon Demon Wolf starts to retreat from out of nowhere. Principal Sun apologizes for not detecting the turbulence and they encounter such accident like this. But he commended everyone for performing well to fight these monsters, and he also mentioned that he already contacted the reinforcement team and in 20 minutes they will arrive. The students start to feel relief after knowing that they will be saved from the situation. Menkeo used some of his contribution points in exchange for treating his wounds while everyone was busy. Luckily, no one is looking at him so he can freely heal his wounds. Shu and Luohai were so happy to think they already won and they compliment Menkeo's performance. Just a moment, Menkeo notices something wrong about Principal Sun. He notices that Principal Sun's spiritual flame state seems unstable, so he was thinking if he was injured. So, he calls everyone to rest and recover first because he had to discuss something with Principal Sun. As he approaches Principal Sun, he can't believe on what he saw. He saw Principal Sun's spiritual energy unstable. Blood from his mouth, and the worst is the wound that Principal Sun had in his chest. Principal Sun told him to stay quiet to avoid the other students get scared and also the group of beasts to discover and find out. Menkeo starts to panic as he saw Principal Sun's life-threatening wound and he was confused. Why does Principal Sun bursting with spiritual energy? However, Principal Sun can't fight anymore, but he can't sit down either because he must not stop circulating his spiritual energy. It turns out that he's planning to scare the beast while he's unleashing all his spiritual flame because these monsters are smart. He was planning to do this until the reinforcement team find them. But Menkeo was so down because at this rate Principal Sun would die. With his body's current state, he must be resting in medical treatment capsule and shouldn't be even moving a single finger. Principal Sun told him that everyone will die sooner or later and there's no guarantee when you die. Be it Red Dragon Army's identity or Ninth High or Principal identity or on just a normal Dragon City citizen. All of they will die and there's no escape for it. He knows that Principal Sun wasn't afraid of death, but he must not die here. Just a sudden Principal Sun asks him with me, a hero. He added, you want a hero to watch these students fall into danger and not help them. Does a hero will get so tired just by killing a few dogs? He suddenly coughs up blood and his wound starts to burst out for exceeding his body capability. Principal Sun's spiritual flame is now becoming weaker and more started to disperse. The howling of the wolf group suddenly begun and this caught their attention. The blood smoke was about to reappear again and moving toward Menkeo and Principal Sun again. As the blood smoke was about to reach Principal Sun, he charges up his spiritual energy again to help him. Principal Sun used the spiritual energy force to make a pulse of energy to push back the blood smoke. Menkeo are just observing Principal Sun while the wolf group retreats again. Menkeo told to Principal Sun that he was willing to enter space turbulence to save them because in the students' eyes he was a hero. But Principal Sun still insists that since he was a hero there's even no more reason for him to retreat. Menkeo was so speechless after hearing those words from Principal Sun. So, he tries to voluntarily to bring the other students into the forest and stall for the wolves while Principal Sun could rest for a while. But he only got scolded by Principal Sun because he is just going to bring the students to die from this situation. Menkeo recommending that they just need to rush towards Dragon City's direction and kill wolves along the way until the reinforcement team will arrive. Somehow Menkeo realized that Principal Sun didn't contact the reinforcement team and only trying to easing everyone and stalling. He explained that the team isn't far away. If not 20 minutes, they might took 1 hour to find their location and current duty is to scare the beast using whatever he can do until the reinforcement team arrive. Time to time, Principal Sun was losing blood from the injury and Menkeo starts to worry about him. He told to Menkeo that he's not a hero and only just an ordinary normal human that must bet and risk everything in order to save everyone. Even if bones are shattered, there are also things that need to be done, as he added. So, he trying to comfort Menkeo to eat some monster's flesh to recover their stamina, because if he dies before the reinforcement team arrive, they will rely on themselves. Menkeo didn't think twice and just did what Principal Sun told them, since he was right about it. Everyone starts to eat monster's flesh while crying. Some students start to meditate while Principal Sun stalling them to regain their stamina. While Menkeo was thinking a way to win from these monsters, a few minutes had passed. Principal Sun asks Menkeo if in the future Dragon City, will it be still bustling like this day? Menkeo replied that he must not worry because the future Dragon City will definitely be more bustling than today. Principal Sun was hoping that the future kids would live a happier life than these eras, and also without having fear at these monsters. Menkeo agreed to him that this would happen. Principal Sun starts to lose his consciousness because of losing stamina due to the wounds that he received. Menkeo catches him up immediately and apologizing at Principal Sun for not knowing the future whether or not they can conquer the other world. As Menkeo about to continue of what he's talking, he suddenly stopped, because Principal Sun replied him for being stupid kid. He told him that it's fine whether or not they can conquer the other world while grabbing him. He added that they just don't get conquered by the other world and monsters. After these worlds, Principal Sun dies due to losing too much blood. Menkeo was speechless after another person dies in front of him. Suddenly the Wolf King spoke to them that the old man finally died. The Wolf King was going to approach them. While Menkeo holding the corpse of Principal Sun, the Wolf King told him to run and leave the corpse behind. Menkeo starts to burst out his anger. He put the must and cotton balls to prepare himself to fight back the Wolf King while the reinforcements weren't arrived yet. The Wolf King spreads the blood smoke while demanding them to run back to their shining nest and sparing their life. But Menkeo wasn't afraid of him and asking if he was trying to teach him how to do things. The beast is injured, so it doesn't want to fight him back after he leave. The Wolf King will kill the other students and recover the beast fully. The Blood Moon slaughter mission is he only need to escape alive, and he can earn 5,000 contribution points. With his points, entering the main course won't be hard for him since Tinders is a huge help. He reminds the Principal Sun said to him that every human will do anything even though they die just to risk everything. Even this is reckless. Menkeo decided to not join to the main course of the Tinders mission. He became selfless and wanting to destroy every monster that going to stop him. He used Tinder to upgrade his 100 War Sword technique Ultimate Realm Burst Boost. The Wolf King was confused for Menkeo because he already offered to letting him off, but he was trying to do something. He replied that the Wolf King only let him off, but he doesn't want to spare the Wolf King. He needs to consume and use energy to increase his realm. After drinking the potion, his energy Berserker Burst of which is enough to fight the Wolf King. Menkeo and the Wolf King starts to engage to each other to fight. Unfortunately, the Wolf King was so powerful that made Menkeo got hit at his abdomen. Because of the Menkeo flew away so hard after getting hit. Everyone was fighting for their own survival and Menkeo came across them. The Wolf King lunges at him while he's in midair. This made everyone panic as they saw Menkeo about to get eaten by the Wolf King. Menkeo's left hand got bitten by the Wolf King and he can't move by it. He got furious after this. Suddenly something broke free from Menkeo's inner spiritual energy. Menkeo's spiritual tattoo starts to appear while being bitten by the Wolf King. It turns out that Menkeo break through during a near-death situation to become a superhuman being. Menkeo tries to fight back and used his sword to swing it to the Wolf King. He manages to land a swing of his sword and the Wolf King endure the pain. Because of the pain, the Wolf King shakes him off and Menkeo loses his grip from his sword. Menkeo activates the Reckless Bull to make his shoulder tougher. The Wolf King was still so furiously swinging him up. Just a moment, the Wolf King slams him into a tree. The Wolf King simultaneously slamming Menkeo on these trees while Menkeo can't fight back. Menkeo spits blood after being slammed so hard. He's so desperate to kill the Wolf King to avoid any chance to harm humans. So, he was thinking another way to fight this beast. Suddenly, Menkeo notices his spiritual tattoo and energy raised up just a sudden. His spiritual energy exceeds his expectation because it came from out of nowhere. He had a thought of this might be Principal Sun's heroic spirit that helping him to raise his spiritual energy. He made a form of his hands like what Principal Sun doing when charging the spiritual energy. He combines the Principal Sun's Devil's Pestle and Menkeo's Ultimate Realm's 100 War Sword technique. He manages to pierce to the Wolf King's head with this combined technique. The spiritual energy starts so burst out inside the Wolf King's head because of how powerful this technique was. The Blood Moon Demon Wolf felt that their Wolf King died. So, they run away to retreat since their pack has no longer had a king. The students start to celebrate their victory and they are now gladly happy that they survive. However, Luo Hai noticed something strange from the Blood Moon Demon Wolf's movement for being too organized and the Wolf King's roar must have been an order roar. So, he assumes that Menkeo possibly heavily damaged the Wolf King and the Wolf King had to summon the wolf group back to help him. He immediately calls everyone to chase the Blood Moon demon wolves because it will save the Wolf King. All the student rushes and didn't waste any time. Yuohai was hoping that Menkeo must be still alive until they come. The Wolf King told to Menkeo to run away, but Menkeo's hand was still inside the Wolf King's head. The Wolf King told him that his wolf group will arrive very soon and this was his last chance to survive. But Menkeo insists that even if he got devoured by the wolf group, he won't let him escape from him. Menkeo's hand was about to reach the Wolf King's brain to kill the beast directly, but he was 20 centimeters away. So, he tries his beast to reach the Wolf King's brain to make a direct hit. Menkeo succeeds from his limitation in order to kill the Wolf King. So, he used Devil's Pestle again to dig deeper from the Wolf King's head. The Wolf King realized that this was the scariest part of human. Menkeo was proudly calling Principal Sun that he manages to kill the Wolf King, and before losing consciousness he had a glance of the wolf group. Menkeo was so drained while his hand was deep inside the Wolf King's head. Principal Sun's spiritual energy patted him before it gone and Menkeo loses consciousness. The wolf group was rushing toward him. They are so furious as they saw their Wolf King already dead and lying on the ground. The students have been late because the group of demon wolves are now close, charging toward Menkeo. Yuohai starts to panic since they had no time. One of the wolves pounces at Menkeo, but all of a sudden someone slashes this demon. The demon wolves had been shooting by someone and dying one by one. It turns out the rescue team finally arrived at their location and going to help them up. Yuohai felt relief as the rescue team finally arrived. After a week at Dragon City underground honeycomb stereo grave, Principal Sun's funeral happened. Teacher Yan starts to call everyone to bid their farewell toward the normal Dragon City citizen Sun Da-zing. He is one of first batch of people who was living in the Dragon City but to protect humanity. And Dragon City, he gave up everything that he had. Even during his last seconds, he was still fighting hard for Dragon City's future, in order to save everyone, and now he will definitely rest in peace. Teacher Yan was so sad after losing someone important for him. After the ceremony, Chu calls Teacher Yan. Teacher Yan told to Chu to visit Menkeo since he was in coma for the last 7 days. He also mentions that they will be enrolled in different university for possible much more chances where they can see each other. Shu thanks Teacher Yan after this. On the other side, Xiao Kao was crying beside him while promising that she will get better and won't slack during stance practice anymore. She was complimenting Menkeo for performing just like a hero even though she didn't saw him. She misses of how his brother Menkeo debating and everything they go through. She was deeply sad that even Menkeo was in coma. She was demanding to argue with her while holding his hands. She told him that hero won't make themselves badly injured so they can slack on bed. Menkeo starts to tremble while sweating too much while sleeping. 7 days later he finally recovers himself. He woke up and still at the hospital while beside him was Xiao Kao waiting for him to wake up. He assumes that he just had a bad dream after having a severe shockwave that affected him after killing the Blood Moon Wolf King. But he was curious of why is there such place in the Wolf King's memory that also has a blood pool and cocoon that made him think that the monster could be not born but are man-made. Even though he's someone who is reborn, he still has less knowledge of this world, so he must go to find out those hidden secret. Suddenly the Tinder gives him a message from its notification. He completed the Blood Moon Slaughter mission, so he received 9,999 contribution points. Kill the strong while being weaker by killing Blood Moon Wolf King with 5,545 contribution points. Inherit Hero Citizens will gives him 5,045 contribution points. Along with these rewards he obtained Super Being ability Devil Pestle. He already has the will to become a hero like Principal Sun. So, he immediately looks for the new things that he can unlock after receiving too much contribution points. As he opens, there was a list of Cicada Technique 8,888. Magnetic Field Speed Up Technique 15,000, Advanced Shooting Skills 19,000, and lastly Intermediate Healing Technique 9,999. He was so shocked as he saw the amount of contribution points for every skill and technique after breaking on his life force limit. All of a sudden, he noticed Xiao Kao with a drawing of herself and him that trying to wake him up. Just a sudden she was asking for another meat from her dream. Menkeo startled that the future darkness witch snorts while sleeping. Menkeo did so many things and it result of decreasing by 10% the darkening rate. And he was wondering of devil bloodline that he didn't notice in his past life. Because of too much stress he was having a headache. Luckily, he was treated from a private hospital that Elder Ning suggests to send him to Green Capsule Treatment Center to receive treatment. At private hospitals, the official only helped to pay the half while the remaining half are paid by Elder Ning and Yishi organization to show their gratitude toward Tinder Old Man. By Elder Ning and Dr. Su's hard work, they managed to make Menkeo's body to recover immediately. because of this type of treatment was way above normal human standards. Also because of the berserk spiritual energy, it has let him awaken and become a super being before and opened up his 3 main vessels of his right arm. But the price his other main vessels got damaged, which means he become the so-called cripple super being, and if nothing goes wrong, he will only be able to stay at Earth rank super being for the rest of his life. So, he thinks that there's always a path that he can take when he's alive, and it's better being a crippled super being than die. To praise his heroic action in the forest, Survival Committee Club, Red Dragon Army and Super Being Tower all give him badges. Intermediate healing can heal his main vessel, but it seems like each time it can only heal once, and the price will continue to increase each time he uses it. The 108 main vessels are a large number in front of him, so he feels that even if he become Dragon City Mayor, he can't obtain so many contribution points, so he's going to find another way. The next day he goes in Super Being Tower to report. He was so amazed to see that Super Being Tower being so spectacular for him. From out of nowhere, he was called by Luo Hai and happy to see him already awakened. He shows his spiritual energy tattoo at Meng Kao. He then stated that he barely opened up 61 main vessel, and now he can fight with those Dragon Martial Courses prodigies. He wants to convey with Meng Kao to thank him for saving his life from the test. Because if Meng Kao weren't encouraged him in the wild, he'd be killed by the Blood Moon Demon Wolf and never would become a super being. However, Meng Kao Loki humble that it's nothing for him and thanks him for his father for giving a valuable material for his recovery. Luo Hai also felt guilt for Meng Kao's unable to recover his main vessel. Then Meng Kao got speechless by this. Luo Hai discussed the ancient ruin below the Super Being Tower. Meng Kao had some background about this, that the Starry Sky Civilization's relic that they can't understand, and it's been buried underground. Super Being Tower was built for the sole purpose of researching it. This place where miracle happens and where everything is possible. And they believe that as ancient ruins development progress speeds up, that they can go across each technology difficulty. He believed that one day, they can solve his crippled super being problem and have a chance to rise up to the peak of Super Being Tower. After that he planned that they will stop talking about all of this for now. According to rules, just awakened super being are need to come to Superhuman Being Tower to register themselves. Even Meng Kao not having a feeling to any hostile intention for him. Instead he feel near max sincerity. Somehow, he was confused why he feel like Luo Hai asked him to come at Super Being Tower to come while having other goals. When they got inside, they met named Ahai and welcomed him for saving Luo Hai from the Blood Moon Demon Wolf. It was actual father of Luo Hai that gives him the resources for his recovery, and he thanked him for it. Ahai patted him while he's going to tell him the reason why did he invite both of them. First, he wants Meng Kao to thank him for helping Luo Hai as a father. Second, he also represent the Super Being Association to praise Meng Kao for his heroic action. He was impressed for Meng Kao's sword technique for being fierce, ruthless, and has a feeling of cutting apart everything. He explains that his technique wasn't that bad, but before he shatters the monster's bone, his vessel and nerve will explode first. That's why he became crippled super being. He was going to show a way that could help Meng Kao to change and modify his technique. Ahai demonstrate the way of slashing of his sword in different ways and angle to maximize the force without damaging himself. Although the power was decreased by 3%, the stability and flow will increase greatly. Meng Kao was flabbergasted as he saw a 6-star super being capable. Ahai assumed that the stab he used was combination of 100 War Sword technique and Devil's Pestle, so he also going for it. He was interested for Meng Kao, that's why he's going to help him to improve hit technique, so he shows it. Meng Kao starts to focus to take anything that could help him to improve. Ahai lunges while charging the combined technique of 100 War Sword technique and Devil's Pestle. As he swings his hand on the wall, he manages to make a through the wall without his hand reaching, and by using only the spiritual energy. Suddenly a powerful force hits the wall, that resulting to breaking it using only the spiritual force that he used. Meng Kao starts to be motivated as he saw that he could possibly improve his techniques. Ahai told him that if a low-rank super being made achievement, he could be qualified to get teachings from the high-rank super being. They were shocked as the wall about to shatter, even though the cultivation room wall is made up using macromolecule gathered energy absorbing material. Ahai told to Meng Kao that his turn this time to try what he learned from him. Meng Kao immediately take the form and gather the spiritual energy using the Devil Pestle, and he tried it out. After trying so many times, he finally learned the super being technique to send Devil Slash with proficiency rate normal rank 1%. By Master Luo Wu's guidance, he learned this to send Devil Slash immediately. He told to Meng Kao that who did contributions should be rewarded, so the mindset can be passed on, and this is one of the Super Being Tower's tradition. Manhwa had a thought of all Luo Hai saw his 100 war sword technique, so demonic changes business road and decided to work with him and promote for free, and then through martial art techniques said to earn money. So, he assumed that they must heard something from Elder Ning that made the idea to build relationship with him and Tinder old man. But Luo Hai finally shown his true colors after asking Manhwa for their future's cooperation. Manhwa asks him if it was cooperation or recruiting, so Luo Hai responded that if it was recruiting, will he accept it. They live in an era where anything can happen outside of fog and no one knows how many benefits and risks, so he was making sure that his business gets larger and strong. So, he asks Manhwa if he was willing to be his co-leader to build his own super being team. But Manhwa tries to think about it first, since he was thinking that he's not suitable as co-leader. Luo Hai was trying his best to assure that Manhwa would go at him before Manhwa become famous, and many offers for him to had come. But Manhwa thought of that could be reasonable. However, he asks him why he's not the one going to build a team instead, and Luo replied that because he was crippled. Manhwa told him that even how many vessels are open and know how to fight or not, it will be completely two different things. So, he explains that even crippled super being may have less techniques, but they are still strong enough. Because of this, Luo Hai offers a duel, and if he defeated Manhwa, he will join to his team, and Manhwa if he defeats Luo Hai instead. Both of them moves back to prepare themselves. Both of them lunges to each, while Luo Hai used Break Soul Sword and Manhwa used Descend Devil Slash. Their attacks had been collided. Suddenly a large explosion of spiritual energy came up from the collision of their attacks. Luo Hai expected that Manhwa was quite strong to handle him, so he got hyped up. Manhwa thanked him for praising him up while charging at him. Luo Hai immediately reacted into it. He leans his back to dodge Manhwa attack, and luckily, he manages to dodge it. Luo Hai felt such pity at Manhwa for being crippled super B, and the changes won't be enough. He did the Break Soul Slash again, but this time using his foot. Manhwa felt irritated since his spirit vessel amount isn't enough, that making him can't continuously use the Descended Devil Slash. However, Luo Hai was so confidently wanting to win at Manhwa, so he wanted to be his co-leader before he recovers his spirit vessel. Manhwa decided to come closer since he won't be able to attack with long range. He charges his spiritual energy to make an attack. Luo Hai notices that Manhwa trying to come closer to him to make up for being crippled super being weakness. So, Luo Hai launches a Break Soul Slashes toward Manhwa. But Manhwa dodges all of it without any problem. Manhwa was planning to make a super killer technique, and he even considered himself as mechanic, beast type, even a military's shooting technique. Manhwa's hand was close to Luo Hai's face, but Luo Hai leaned down again to dodge this dangerous attack. He got wondered how did Manhwa manages to do this, even though he had damaged vessel, and by this he might have a better future than his father than could exceed into his realm. However, Luo Hai decided to try the open spirit vessels to attack Manhwa. He got hit by open spirit vessel at his chest. Because of this, Manhwa spits a blood. The blood that the spit landed from Luo Hai's face, and it blocks his vision. Luo Hai was about to reach Manhwa's throat, while Manhwa was about to reach Luo Hai's eye. Luo Hai assumed that Manhwa's left arm can't shoot out spirit flame, so he can't deal with him, while he can directly activate spiritual flame to slash Manhwa's throat. He assumed that he won their fight. Manhwa replied that he had a fun fight with him while having more interest in his corporation. Manhwa thanks him for a spare fight, while Luo Hai asking him if he's now going to join into his team. But Manhwa told him that he didn't win against him. This made Luo Hai got confused for denying his defeat from their fight. Luo Hai calls his father in voice call to tell him what happened because he didn't understand. While his father doing the training, he explains that if it was real battle, Manhwa's hand will be not only poking his eyes, either not going to be his finger. He added that Manhwa's strongest part is his shooting technique because he shoots more than 10 bullets on gold target from the shooting skill. Manhwa purposely took a hit so he can spit out his blood to disrupt Luo Hai's vision. Also, the hand with a weird gesture that he said was Manhwa holding a gun and already aimed at his eyes that ready to shoot. If it was a real battle, Luo Hai would have died many times already, and he got shocked after hearing this. Meanwhile, Manhwa was in the bathroom cleaning himself. He felt relief that this fight was worth it for him to help him recall many things. Human body is formed by 108 main vessels and 1024 support vessels. The killer moves need to activate the 108 main vessels to mobilize the magnetic field to unleash strong killer move. But this is also making them unable to move and will appear as accumulate state, waiting for killer move to form, but they will stay frozen. And to calm the vessels, so they have to face the cooldown state, but these three problems can't be solved. During the beginning period of the monster war, killer move type martial artist relies on strong power to defeat monsters and obtain achievements. But as the war progressed, many monsters grasped to near-death mutation and sudden revivability. Due to killer move, martial artists stayed either under accumulate, frozen or cooldown state and died. After countless price and sacrifices, experts and veteran finally changed their mindset and tried a new type of combat mode. This was the limit type, which different from killer move with 1000 main vessels with our slender and weak veins, as they're unable to instantly unleash killer technique. But once they get into attack tempo, normal move with combo continuous technique still can cause great damage. Almost no accumulate, frozen, or the cooldown, thus can attack and defend, and this was the greatest advantage. In the later stage of the monster war, using continuous technique to stun or make the monster get blown away, and by using of this period to unleash strong killer technique to end the battle. It became the best battle method for a martial artist. In his past life, Dragon City wasted too many times and resources, sacrificed too many experts and veterans. So, he has to let limit type get known and let veterans change their style. Later that night, Manhwa looked for the talented individuals who are currently researching on limit type. He saw a familiar name, Gu Giant Bo, which in under weightlessness state. So, he wondered who was this guy from his past life. Suddenly, he remembered something as he recalled from his past. He reminds the Sword Storm dancer Gu Giant Bo, the limit type creator. And he was the ancestor of the limit type that was said that if didn't die he'd have reached God realm. He got excited to make him owe a favor or increase his favorability of him and hug his tight, then he won't need to use Tinder old man title anymore. Xiao Cao heard him saying that he had decided hugging the tights. Suddenly he heard her for saying, "Whose tights are you hugging?" Xiao Cao told to their parents that Manhwa was browsing dirty websites again. They had a conflict after assuming Manhwa doing naughty things with the internet. Manhwa told to their parents that not to always protect Xiao Cao, who spouts nonsense, because she had to be punished. Somehow their mother told them to stop fighting for a while since their father was going to say something. His father has to thing to saw, and the first one is good news. Because of Manhwa's excellent performance, their family had been offered by the survival committee to prepare their new home at the Honghu Garden tomorrow, and they were happy for it. The second this is Manhwa's class teacher called and asked if Manhwa has filled his ambition for the college meaningly. He had to complete it by this week and never forget it due to other things. Somehow, Xiao Cao spout again, saying that Manhwa definitely forgotten about it because of browsing dirty things again. Suddenly her mother scolded Manhwa for thinking that he's bullying his sister. Manhwa told to his father that he must not worry about it because he already decided on which university he would go, so his father which one of the agricultural resources or dragon martial art. He responded that agricultural martial art course because he had seen his future from there. Tinder activated the continuous mission limit breaker. The mission notification is all new wars require a new battle mindset, and let limit type replace the killer move to make the era of killer move change and let those monster get crushed by warriors. First round was helping Sword Storm dancer Gu Giant Bu to finalize the limit type combat mode, while the complete standard was Tinder successor, or Gu Giant Bu quench 1024 vessels to increase support vessel instant attack power, and then create it to at least 1/10 main vessels. The first round mission reward will be 8,000 contribution points along with repair and heal of 10 main vessels of Manhwa. Thanks for watching. We hope we entertain you and enjoy the content we have provided. We update our channel regularly with manhwa content, so make sure you subscribe for more. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or feedback. Until next time, take care and stay safe.